Welcome to the Lean Life podcast, where holistic nutrition meets deep healing and soul level wellness. This is a space where we connect mind, body, and spirit, where lean means shedding the layers, returning to who you truly are, and nourishing yourself from the inside out. I'm Lauren Ahola, your host and holistic registered dietitian with over a decade of experience, and I've learned that real healing goes far beyond food. It's emotional, spiritual, and deeply personal. If you're ready to go deeper, reconnect with yourself, and truly lean into all that you are, you're in the right place. Let's do this. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Today's episode is all about gut health. I've been wanting to do an episode on this forever, and it's just such a loaded topic. We're going to see what comes out today. But what I really want to go into is why this matters so much and why your gut health could be the missing piece of just feeling your best, your overall health journey. And what I always say to clients, right? Why does this matter? A big thing is I will tell anyone I'm working with, I'm telling you now that you become what you absorb, not just what you eat, right? So a lot of times people will come to me, meeting this calorie goal and protein, and I'm just not getting the results. And this person could be super bloated, maybe having heartburn, indigestion all the time. Maybe hasn't gone to the bathroom or had a bowel movement in like 5 days. And a lot of that is just deeper clues that maybe you're not absorbing your food and breaking it down, even though your app, right, this outside source is telling you that you are. So, if you're getting great results and feeling great with what you're doing, great, keep doing it. But a lot of times, most people I see just feel like they could feel better, or maybe you feel really off in your digestion. And we're going to go into today the common gut symptoms, right? We all think gut health, like if you're bloated or constipated, but gut health can matter in so many more areas of your life related to your hormones, your skin's autoimmune. So we'll go into all of that today too. But just keep an open mind, and it's going to be a lot of information. So even if you pick up on one or two tips or listen for things that apply to you in this moment. And so with digestion, right, it starts in your mouth. We have a whole digestive system. It's not just about what's going on in your stomach. Digestion starts in your mouth and it goes all the way to your exit, your anus. And so all of it matters, right? And if something is off along the way, it could be affecting you more than you realize. And so with digestion, we want to chew our foods well. That's one of the biggest things is if we're taking like 2 bites of a food and sending undigested foods into our stomach, it's just going to be so much harder for your gut to break down. And also that can be related to your dental health. If there's any bacteria there or gingivitis, or if we have a lot of cavities, root canals, metal fillings, like that could definitely impact our health and digestion in so many ways. And so that's just a brief intro of why it matters. And just to kind of explain a little more. So with digestion, right, each of your food goes down through your esophagus into your stomach. And then with your stomach, we need stomach acid to break down your foods. And with stomach acid, it signals to your pancreas to send in enzymes to help break down your food even further. Right. So a lot of times people could be feeling like they have too much stomach acid. That's a big one. And let's say you feel like, oh, I'm having heartburn, indigestion. You go to your GI doctor and they put you on omeprazole or a PPI or Prilosec or something along those lines. In the short term, those medications are totally fine. But doctors often don't say like, hey, this is meant to be like 6 weeks, right? And over time, they continue to lower and lower and lower your stomach acid. But stomach acid plays such a vital part in your digestion. It is so strong that it burns through your finger and it helps to break down your foods, especially proteins. And it kills off all these invaders, right? So if you think about it, we're welcoming in all these different foods from the outside world into our body. We need to be able to kill things off. We're not in a perfect world. Even if you are eating like organic, grass-fed, washing your fruits and vegetables. Still, we don't know what we're bringing in. So, stomach acid helps to kill all those things off. And if we continue to lower and lower it, that can cause a trickle effect on the rest of our digestive tract. And sometimes, well, a lot of times it's not even like heartburn or indigestion isn't even usually a high stomach acid thing. It could be more of a weak sphincter or inflammation in the body. So that's not always the case. So I try to work with clients on that as well. And so in your gut, you break down your foods and then, well, in your stomach, right? And then it goes into your small intestine. Your small intestine is absolutely huge. If you spread it all out, there's so many curves and villi. And if you spread the whole thing out, it's pretty much the length of a tennis court, and which is absolutely nuts. But this is where most of your absorption occurs. A lot of nutrient absorption, especially so when a lot of times vitamins and mineral come back low or off, it could be related to your absorption, which is a big part in your small intestine. Then we go down into your colon. That's where a lot of your gut microbiome, I hear that term, which we'll go into a lot more today. But your gut microbiome is kind of like just this own ecosystem in there. The term microbiome is related to your gut bacteria, and we really need them. We have a whole host of good guys in there, and that's what most of them are in your colon. We have other microbiomes in pretty much every area of our body, but that's the big one when we think about trying to take probiotics and digestion, and then all the food all the nutrients we need kind of absorb into your bloodstream, get sent through the body, and then through the process of elimination, we have a bowel movement. And ideally, regular bowel movements 1 to 3 times a day formed without any sort of strain, or if we eat something and go to the bathroom, like right after running to the bathroom, like your bowel movements are a huge sign of how well your health is and how you're digesting your food. So just things to pay attention to. That's a very brief overview. But my point here is all of it is important and it's all connected. And your gut health also matters. There's the gut health hormone connection. So if your hormones are off, I always like to look at someone's gut health. Same with inflammation. Your gut health could be a huge sign of, or a reason why there is inflammation spread through your body. Same with your immune system. I want to say like 70% of your body's immune system is in your gut. So that's to have a strong immune system, or if you're constantly getting sick or it's hard to fight things off, improving your gut health could really help with that. Another big thing is the gut brain connection. And we've heard that a lot is, your gut's like your second mind, which is totally true. It has a mind of its own. And it's kind of the chicken or the egg, what comes first, sending connections back and forth between your brain and your gut. So if your gut health is off and you have maybe these foreign invaders or overgrowth in there, or you don't have enough of the good gut bacteria, that can really affect like ADHD, anxiety, depression, and more. Your gut health also can be a big part of your weight and your ability to regulate your weight. So if I work with somebody who is eating perfectly and we're going to the gym and meeting all their goals, but not seeing their weight loss they like to see, my suggestion is always, have you looked at your gut health? Do we want to look at that further? Along with someone who has difficulty gaining a lot of weight, or maybe their nutrients are low, they might need to regulate their gut health to put on some healthy weight. Everybody is so different, and your gut really influences nearly every system in your body. And so when we think of gut health, right, here are some common digestive symptoms that you will think of with your gut. If someone is constipated, the definition of constipation is not having a bowel movement every day, at least 1 to 3. So, for you, it could be like, well, I just go every 3 days, 5 days. I have some clients who go every 10 days, which I can't even imagine that, but it definitely can happen. Bloating. And when someone tells me they're bloated, I always ask, what kind of bloated are you? Is it your upper bloating? Is your lower stomach bloated?
Does it just feel like, does your stomach feel gurgly or gassy? Or does it just feel kind of like full of fluids? Or there's so many different types, but we would commonly think of that as a digestive symptom. Maybe something's off in your gut. Diarrhea, not formed stools, running to the bathroom, heartburn, indigestion, any kind of nausea and vomiting. And once in a while, if those things happen, like, we're humans. Nobody's perfect, right? So if you've been away, you're on vacation, maybe you're super stressed, and you feel like your stomach's upset or get heartburn, and it only happens like very rarely, I wouldn't stress about it. Nobody is perfect. But if these things become like a weekly, daily thing that start to disrupt your life and get really uncomfortable, you start to notice symptoms in other areas, is a big sign you want to look into that deeper. Some hidden symptoms that you might not realize are related to your gut health would be anything to do with your skin. I always say the skin reflects what's going on inside of you. And so rashes, hives, eczema, psoriasis, rosacea, acne, all of those things can improve with your gut health and are big signs that you want to look deeper there. I remember I didn't even know this. I was in high school and I started to break out with just acne on my chin, which I always kind of on and off, but there it got really bad. And my dermatologist was super cool and she was like, go try a probiotic. And she didn't recommend a medication or anything. I went to the Good Health store in Hanover at that point with my mom and they picked out a probiotic for me and my acne went away. And at that point, I didn't even really think about it. I was just like, oh, this is great. But that was kind of my first insight that the gut and skin are connected. And for me, skin concerns have always been something as a kid with eczema on and off. I've had psoriasis, acne. And so when I start to have these flare ups is a sign for me that my body is trying to communicate with me like, hey, you're stressed, your gut health is off. And diving deeper into that always helps. Something people don't think of a lot of as well as some hidden symptoms are chronic sinus infections. We can just think like, oh, I have another sinus infection. I'm going to go to my doctor and get an antibiotic, or maybe it's allergies or the weather, right? But as this keeps happening, there's a huge link to your gut here. If there's any bacterial overgrowth or candida, or maybe some food sensitivities, or your gut immune system is off, you could really see improvements from diving deeper into your gut health. And I don't always like to give the most specific examples for everything because everybody is so different. But for instance, if somebody has something like a candida infection with it, which is a yeast overgrowth, that can definitely affect your sinuses. And like I mentioned before, some other hidden symptoms of your gut being off, frequent illness or low immunity. Autoimmune conditions are huge for that. Autoimmune conditions are really tricky. If we're talking like Hashimoto's or lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, diabetes, like there's just so many of them and they're multifaceted, but an area that always can improve them is your gut. So another condition that I often see linked to these like systemic inflammatory conditions in the body would be something like leaky gut. Leaky gut, the technical term for it is intestinal permeability. That's often if you go to a GI doctor, they might, look into that for you. Sometimes they don't. But basically, your intestinal wall lining is supposed to be super tight, right? It's all connected, it's protecting you. But over time, sometimes the intestinal lining can become weak and have little holes, and what's in your intestines can start to seep into your bloodstream, which can cause systemic inflammation and reactions and a lot of food sensitivities. And everybody reacts in different ways. But that's always something that I would look into rather than just I do see medication has its purpose at some points, but rather than just thinking, another medication, another doctor is going to fix this autoimmune condition or anything else, like diving into your gut health is very, very helpful. Like I mentioned before, your gut mind connection, anxiety, and depression can really be improved for a lot. Same with ADHD with working on your gut health. And if you have super low energy and fatigue, that could also be a sign your gut health is off. That could be a sign of so many things, right? But in combination with some of these other things, working on your gut health really could help, especially if you aren't absorbing your vitamins well, especially low iron, B12, vitamin D. And we're going to go into this a little bit, but I've had a lot of gut issues myself, which is really why I'm passionate about this. And when people come to me, I can understand how they feel and how frustrating it is. And for me, a big thing that's been through my whole life is chronically low ferritin, iron. My ferritin level at my baseline, looking at my past labs from like 20s to when I started working on my gut health, was an average of like 9 to 11, which is super low. That's your iron stores. They are supposed to be above 30. That's still not ideal. 50 to 100 would be more ideal. But yeah, I was at a 9 to an 11. I've had so many different gut imbalances, and working on my gut health and finding different supplements to support me has brought my ferritin up to a 45 from a 9. So for me, that is improvement. It's not always just go and take an iron supplement. It's like we need to get to the root cause. And I guess a lot of that why I like gut health so much, it is related to a root cause rather than just going to get another medication or try another diet or whatever it is. It, no matter what, working on it is going to positively impact every aspect of your life. That's why symptoms can show up outside of the digestive tract. Your gut impacts more than digestion, which is why imbalances often show up throughout your body. And so let's talk a little bit about my gut health story. I always find that sharing through stories is some of the easiest ways to explain things. And so I've been a dietitian for about 15 years now. And back in 2016, 2017, I was working as a dietitian. I lived in San Diego. And at that time in my life, I had worked in hospitals. I was working in long-term care at the time, assisted living, and I was in my yoga training. And, life was good, right? And I thought I knew everything, and I was in really good shape. And I also was a chronic overexerciser and undereater, but it's all connected. And during this time, I randomly just started to break out in more eczema rashes. I was bloated all the time. I started gaining weight. And I was just so confused as to why. It was like, well, I'm eating well. I know what to eat. This is what I would tell other people to eat. And I kept going to my doctor because I really didn't know what else to do at this point. I wasn't exposed to the world of functional healing yet beyond yoga. Yoga and mindset I was working on a lot. And I knew I was stressed out. I felt just, as much as I love San Diego, I just felt really alone at that point. And I realized that it just wasn't for me to live there. So I do think some of that stress is always connected and maybe ignited some of my gut symptoms that had been there for a while. But so, yeah, I got so frustrated with my doctor just sending me home with a cream. And I was just like, this isn't the answer. And all of my blood results, like the typical blood results you get, like the complete metabolic panel, CBC, it's pretty much all they ran. But I didn't know what to ask for. Just kept coming back normal. And so I took matters into my own hand, did some research, and I started working with a naturopathic doctor in San Diego. There's this place called Nourish Medical Center, and now I'll see them online if anything comes up. I've had such good experiences there, and they really just opened my eyes to how much more health and nutrition is beyond just meet your calories, meet your protein, get your fiber. If something's off in the body, those things might just not work. So they ran a whole bunch of tests on me. My cortisol level was through the roof in the red zone. I had low iron. We ran a food sensitivity test. Pretty much every single thing on the list came back high for me. And she was like, oh my God, you can't eat anything. And one thing I didn't know, and for me, is I always knew since a child, like I never tolerated milk well as a newborn. I did not tolerate any formula well, and I would vomit it across the room. I also had eczema breakouts throughout my whole childhood as well, and dental issues too. I had to get a tooth pulled when I was 2. I used to love sugar, grew up in the standard American household, and my parents were great, right? But they didn't know this stuff. It was just like, oh, you know, eat Pop Tarts from a box. And my sister was really sick. So my mom would let me drink juice out of a bottle until I was 3, just because, just out of time and to make me happy. So your gut health can start at a very young age. But this in 2017, when I was about 27, 28, it was like just really eye opening for me. And I was eating Greek yogurt every day, and I'm really not against Greek yogurt. I recommend it to a lot of my clients. I get a good brand. However, for me, knowing I was sensitive to milk and dairy products already, my yogurt and all of my dairy came back through the roof. So I cut that out. I started to do a little more strength training, manage my stress. And when somebody comes back with that many food sensitivities, we know it's something deeper. So definitely started to work on leaky gut through gut healing in general and certain supplements that can be helpful, like L-glutamine and zinc. And then before 6 months, it took about 6 months. And I always like to tell people to be patient with this, because when your gut is inflamed, really anything is, it doesn't just happen overnight. Usually there can be a situation or a stressor or trigger or hard time in life where things get worse. And your body starts to communicate with you like, hey, oh my God, pay attention. But I always tell people these things, have been slowly building over time. So we can't expect that it's just going to heal overnight. And so I stuck with these changes for about 6 months, and then my inflammation went down, my stress went down. I moved back home as well. I do think our stress and our environment play a big part of everything too. And I was back down to my normal weight. I felt in better shape than I did before. And then I felt really good for a while. And then kind of got back into just more strength training with yoga, moved back home, and I was working in a weight and wellness center where I got a ton of my counseling experiences. And then my second wave of healing occurred in about 2020 to 2023 when COVID hit. And my bloating came back, and it was the worst bloating that I had ever experienced. I was also going through a very emotional healing experience at that time, just questioning life. And I did so much through meditations and going on different retreats and really healing through shadow work and inner child work. My past brought up all a deeper layer of healing, and it made me see very clearly how connected our gut health is to our emotions as well. And for me, I store a lot of it in my gut. And through that, I went back to the same naturopath that I saw before. We ran some further testing. And at this point, I had started to run some testing on my own too. But I was diagnosed with small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, candida overgrowth, I had H. pylori, leaky gut was back, and pretty much all these things that if you were to go to a conventional doctor, they wouldn't really test for any of it. I'm not against GI doctors. I think they're so needed. And a lot of my clients will go to GI doctors and maybe just see me afterwards because they're just not getting the answers that they want, right? It's like, oh, you just have IBS, or oh, take Miralax, or here's a Linzess or a Meprazole forever. And when I hear that, my thoughts are always, okay, let's go a little bit deeper here. And yeah, so that was a couple years of just really deep internal physical and emotional healing. And now I run a lot of those tests with my clients, which is super cool. So if somebody comes to me with extreme bloating, constipation, or diarrhea with eating healthy foods, my first thing is, okay, let's check for small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. I will do a whole episode on that. My other favorite test if it was covered by insurance, I would just make a part of my first visit for every client that I see is called the GI map. The GI map stool sample test. I'll do another whole episode on that test as well. But it gives a whole map of what's going on in your gut. And I will say, you're not going to go wrong with it. It just gives more information nobody's perfect. Everybody comes back with something. And like I said, you don't have to go looking for stuff if you feel great. But with that, it gave me a place to start and having some evidence versus just playing the guessing game of maybe I'll try this supplement, then it doesn't work, and then I still don't feel good. I spent all this money and all this time. So I'm a big fan of testing and not guessing. But through that second wave of healing, I just got a deeper understanding of myself. And now I understand when people come to me with symptoms, how they might be feeling, what to look for, what to ask for, what to test. And I can say now that my gut is in a really good place and I can eat so much more foods than I used to eat. My weight is very much easily maintained. And I've not had any eczema breakouts probably since 2020. So these things really do work. And I do think in relation to my pregnancy and fertility, a big part of that was also the years I spent working on my gut health as well. And it's all just so fascinating to me. So, but I will say, your gut health is an ongoing journey. And it's just we'll go into how to keep your gut in a good, healthy place or typical things that can help most people with their gut health. And if these things don't help you or make you feel worse, my big clue would be to look deeper and get some testing done. Because if something's really off in your gut, sometimes the typical things you'll hear, which we're going to go into, do not work. For me, when I was diagnosed with small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, I was eating high fiber, plant-based foods, like doing all the things you should be doing. But if something like that's going on in your body, more fiber is going to make you feel awful for the most part. So if that does happen, it's kind of a red light going off in your head to look for some more answers. Okay, so what is your gut microbiome? We hear this term all the time. And I'll say basically it's just like the good gut bacteria in your gut, mostly in your colon, right? I mentioned every area can have a microbiome, but you have trillions of bacteria and these microorganisms that live through your digestive tract. And these microbes, they play a really important role in digesting your food, absorbing nutrients, they regulate your hormones, support immunity, influence inflammation, and they can also impact your gene instruction. So more and more research is coming out, and this is just what we know now. I feel like we're just scratching the surface. But I will say that your gut microbiome differs more than your DNA, which is crazy. And there's a lot of studies too that they will do fecal implants for mice, and it can change the ability of their metabolism to lose weight, which is super cool too. So, and I've seen it in myself that when your gut's in a better place, like it is easier to lose weight, along with everything else just feels better. And so, how is your gut microbiome formed? Right? We're born with it, and it develops in your mom's womb before birth. So, your mom's gut health can really impact your gut health too. And also, how how you were born can impact your gut health, whether you're a vaginal or C-section, or if you were formula fed or breastfed, can impact your gut health. And throughout your whole life, right? What shapes your gut microbiome would be dietary choices that we make. Like I mentioned, I didn't have the best diet as a kid, but we can't change the past. It's all part of who we are. And I do believe that your gut has abilities to heal itself, and you can change your gut health, your gut microbiome with making better dietary choices at any phase in your life. The earlier you do it, the better. But antibiotics play a huge role if you are someone who has been on a lot of antibiotics in the past or currently. So antibiotics are meant to kill off bacteria, right? The ones that we don't want. And, that can be very helpful. And I can say that in the past, I definitely took quite a bit of them. I had chronic strep throat as a kid, so I definitely took a lot of them. And that's what my mom did. And at this point in my life, if I really need them, I'll weigh the pros and cons and I'll take them. But I try to support my gut with probiotics and other things. along the way. Other medications like steroids or immunosuppressants can affect your gut. Chronic stress can affect everything. If we're at a heightened state, we feel like we're in this fight or flight mode. It doesn't help with anything. And environmental toxins and chemicals can definitely shape your gut microbiome too. So I know we talked about foods, but your beauty products, your cleaning products, what we breathe in the air. So the more you can check those things too, it can be kind of a overwhelming thing, right? Like your laundry detergents, your shampoos, conditioners, cleaning products, toothpaste. You can start a good website I like is the Environmental Working Group, EWG. And you can go on and you can see and they rate the products based out of what is the most safe or what they wouldn't recommend. So you can scan things in the store. I'm not perfect, but what I've done over the years is just as things run out, swap something out. Like let's say I ran out of my Tide laundry detergent, right? Maybe I'll switch to seventh generation, or you can make your own with essential oils. So what we put on our skin and breathe in affects our gut just as much as what we consume. And so how do you support your gut bacteria, right? Like let's say, maybe you feel like you're not feeling the best. Maybe you're doing all these things. Maybe you're like, oh my God, like I've never thought about any of this. Don't get overwhelmed. I'm going to give you some tips to start. And these are some tips that are the basics for gut health that are a really good place to start. And like I said, if you haven't been doing them, give them a chance. Sometimes it can take a little bit. And if you do them and you feel worse and you don't over time really don't feel better seeing your results, like contact someone like myself and we can look at your personalized gut health. But in general, things like fiber, prebiotics, and probiotics really help. So fiber comes from plant foods. It's the food for these gut bacteria, right? So it's undigested carbs, fruits, vegetables, beans, lentils, avocados, artichokes. What else is good fiber? Chia seeds, flax seeds, hemp seeds, and getting a variety through the day. Good goal would be 25 to 35 grams of fiber daily for most people. I would suggest maybe tracking it in an app and see where you're at. If you're at 10 grams of fiber a day, going up to 25 to 30 grams of fiber, you're likely going to feel pretty bad. It's going to make you feel bloated or could change your bowel movements. So as you gradually increase like 5 grams at a time, 2 to 5 grams at a time, increase your water as well in your movement. But we do need to keep feeding our gut bacteria to stay alive. And so if we have a really low fiber diet, and we aren't giving them the food they need. And also, what matters too is the types of foods that we eat. So there's a list called the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. It's also in the Environmental Working Group. And the Dirty Dozen are foods that you want to buy organic. They have the most chemicals or pesticides on them. The Clean 15 have the least. So if you're trying to be on a budget, like you can save your money and buy conventional for those. I will say top of the Dirty Dozen usually is strawberries and spinach. Things on the Clean 15 that usually they have a skin, like bananas or avocados or corn or whatnot. But to be on the safe side, always wash your fruits and vegetables really well because we want to these pesticides are designed to kill little bugs, and your gut are a bunch of little bugs. So you don't want them to kill them off. So that can be really helpful. And then along with, and I eat animal proteins as well. I think they're really great for, a lot of times people, depending on your digestion, they digest well, but they're also really great sources of protein. I just try to buy more organic, antibiotic-free, grass-fed, because if the animals are not fed great foods or they are being shot with hormones or antibiotics, then we eat those things, it impacts our gut and our overall health too. So just some things to think about. And a lot of times people get confused too between prebiotics and probiotics. And prebiotics, I like to say, are just some really special fibery foods. Top prebiotic foods are garlic, onions, leeks, asparagus, artichokes. Or the green bananas. So I feel like bananas get a really bad reputation. They're just a fruit. But the more brown they are, the more sugar content. The more green they are, the more starch content, and it's a resistant starch, which is really good for your gut. Apples are really good prebiotics, oats, flax seeds, chia seeds, lentils, beans. So just some like superfood fiber products. And to add those into your diet can be really helpful. Probiotics. So a lot of times we think probiotic supplements, which I will say that I take a probiotic supplement. I do recommend them to most people. There are so many different types, but I think the world that we're in, it's not perfect. We're exposed to so much every day that the more we can just keep repopulating these good gut bacteria that we want, the better our gut health is going to be and the better we're going to feel. And so with supplements, there's so many different types. Couple standard supplements that I like. Look for like a good broad spectrum. Probiotic is a great place to start. I really like the brand Seed. They test their products really well, and they have billions of microorganisms in the capsule. Is a prebiotic capsule, and the inside is a probiotic. So that one I've seen really good results with myself and others with. Megaspore. If you feel like probiotics don't work for you or sometimes upset your stomach, that's a really good brand. And then if we want to get into further evidence, we can really see what probiotics can be helpful. For instance, specific probiotics. Akkermansia is a big probiotic gut bacteria in your gut that's tied to insulin resistance, your weight, inflammation. So there's certain probiotics that have that strain in it. There's certain probiotics that are helpful with candida or yeast overgrowth or your immunity. And so I will just say not all probiotics are created equal, right? If it was me, I don't even know if it'd be worth it. I probably wouldn't go to CVS and just buy like a standard probiotic off the shelves. I think always looking for something that's been tested, regulated, and is actually going to be worth your money. But if you're overall in good health, get a good standard, well-rounded probiotic. If it bothers you or you have a lot of other things going on, seek some guidance so we can find a better type for you. Fermented foods are also a great source of probiotics. And so you want to start slow with adding these things in because they can cause a lot of bloating or GI upset if you do too much at once. But things like kefir, that is a fermented milk product, but you can, if you're really lactose intolerant, you can make it with like coconut milk or something on your own. A lot of times, if you're getting it in the store, you just want to check and make sure it's not full with a ton of sugar. Other things like kimchi, sauerkraut, miso, tempeh, kombucha can all be some good options to add in. Things like the kimchi, sauerkraut, miso, I would say start with like a teaspoon a day, and then you can work up to a tablespoon or two. Something like kombucha, more a drink, like you can do more of that. Maybe 4 to 8 ounces, see how you feel. Sometimes too much of anything at once as you work your way up could cause a little bloating. But all those foods are really good to keep repopulating your good gut bacteria. And so we already went through some digestion basics in the beginning, but other things just to remind you, other things that impact your gut health a lot: chew your food thoroughly, support your dental health. The role of your stomach acid, which I mentioned thoroughly in the beginning, could be something to investigate, especially if you're on any kind of PPI in the long term. I'm not telling you to come off it right away. It could be something to work towards. I know they're really hard to come off with. It's something you want to talk to a dietitian like myself, a functional practitioner, or your doctor about. Digestive enzymes sometimes can be helpful as supplements to support you breaking down your food. And another big thing for everybody is try to slow down and eat mindfully. The more relaxed you are, the better your digestion is going to be. When your nervous system is relaxed, you go into this place of rest and digest, which helps you to digest your food better. So if it was me, things you can do without any sort of testing or fancy stuff, just with anything you have now at home, is to take a couple breaths before you eat, chew your food really well, and just see if that impacts things at all. And deeper into what disrupts your gut health, I would say too much sugar, which isn't everything now. So just being careful, especially the added sugar, right? You don't need to count like every fruit or natural sugar that you add in. But if you do notice those things, like let's say you eat an apple or have some honey or some watermelon and feel really bloated, like I said, just a clue, maybe to go deeper. Alcohol definitely can disrupt your gut health. It's inflammatory. It decreases our nutrient absorption. It's just not going to make your gut feel very good. So just be careful of that. Highly processed foods, antibiotics, certain medications, and I went through most of the other ones before. So just combination of adding in things that support your gut, removing the things that don't can really help over time. And when do you need to go deeper? Like I said, is let's say you've been cleaning up your diet and eating whole, real foods, trying to be mindful of buying organic when you can, washing things well, chewing your food, slowing down eating, moving your body. Sometimes with movement, walking, stretching, strength training, things like moderate exercise, but someone who does too much intense exercise, like running marathons and doing tons of CrossFit, like if you're in a healing phase, sometimes too much of that can really disrupt your gut health and make it hard to heal. So finding a balance with your exercise. And if you're not exercising at all, moving your body can really help. And let's say you're sleeping good, you're doing all the things, tracking your food, but you're like, hey, I still really feel like I have acid reflux and bloated. My skin's inflamed. My thyroid's off. My hormones are off. Like I would suggest looking into deeper gut healing. If you really want to rule things out, not spend any money, you can go to a GI doctor, communicate, see what they can do. And then I'll often write down some blood work for your doctors to see if they can do those. I always want to check for vitamin and mineral insufficiencies, looking at your blood sugar, inflammatory markers. And then if I think it will be helpful, I would definitely suggest a GI map test. And if we want to add further things on, we could look at a SIBO breath test for people who are super bloated all the time. Or I do food sensitivity testing too for people. It's never my first thing I would suggest. And a lot of people will come to me doing like the Everlywell tests and things online, but I will say they give good information, but they don't look at the whole picture, right? My question is like, why do we have? If a lot of stuff comes up on your test, it's why do we have this? And usually it could be more a overgrowth or a leaky gut or an inflammatory thing. And I'd rather help somebody heal the root cause. So then you can add these things back in. But if you have all the money in the world and you want to do all the testing, like go for it. Because it's all clues and it all can be helpful. Another thing I mentioned just kind of as we close out is that importance again of your gut-brain connection. So our stress levels can always impact digestion, and rest and digest mode when we're slow, relaxed versus flight or flight, running from a tiger can really help. So deep breathing, slow walks, some stretching, humming can be really helpful. And I know it's hard in this world we live in, right? The American lifestyle is not really designed to like, let's have a nice slow lunch and like casually like get to work. It's like everybody is always in a rush, but as best you can remember those things to slow down really, really helps. And so I'm going to leave you guys with 5 simple steps to start this week to improve your gut health. This is where I would start. So focus on whole foods, focus on fiber, maybe some of the prebiotics from the list. Maybe you want to add in like 1 or 2 fermented foods. And try to limit gut disruptors if, things you're doing. If you're someone who's drinking or eating a lot of sugar or alcohol or buying all conventional meats or whatever, you can make some swaps there. Number 2, I would say try to swap one cleaning your beauty product for a cleaner option. You can refer to the environmental working group. If you run out of something, just start to gradually restock, and that could make a big difference over time. Number 3, slow down, breathe, chew your food thoroughly. Number 4, adding in the fiber and probiotic-rich foods, kind of similar to number 1, but I just wanted to really emphasize that as well. So maybe, you track your fiber, see where you're at, and maybe you gradually work up to that 25, 35 grams. And 5, which we didn't really go into a lot, but it really helps with overall health and digestion, is to stay hydrated. And so I know this is a lot of information today. I really want to dive deeper into each different gut imbalance on its own and the gut-mind connection, the gut hormone connection. But this is kind of just a broad overview of why gut health is so important and just some tips to get you going. But if you guys do have any questions, never hesitate to reach out. And if you for sure know you've been struggling with bloating, digestive issues, food sensitivities, skin concerns, hormone imbalances, or you just don't feel like yourself, or maybe you have this gut feeling, it's funny, it's your gut and your mind are so connected, right? So never ignore that gut feeling. But your gut health may be a missing piece, especially if you haven't gone into it before. So don't hesitate to reach out. I'm more than happy to answer questions or work one-to-one to set up an individualized plan. Because like I said, your gut is not like anyone else's. So I hope you guys found this helpful. And yeah, I look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you so much for listening to the Lean Life podcast. Your support truly means everything. If you loved this episode, the best way to support the show is to leave a review, subscribe, or share it with someone you care about. If you want to go deeper, I work with clients one-to-one through intuitive functional nutrition, both locally on the South Shore of Boston and online. You can always reach out, ask questions, or connect with me. I'd love to support you. Sending you love, balance, and a reminder to lean into all that you are. I'll see you in the next episode.